Most chicken owners are stuck in a quiet cycle they rarely question, a cycle of driving to the feed store every few weeks, loading heavy bags into the truck, and handing over money again and again just to keep their birds alive, and over time this routine becomes so normal that they stop noticing what it really costs, not just the $100 or $200 every few months, but complete dependence on a system they do not control. A system where prices rise without warning, supply runs short, and one missed trip means hungry animals in the yard. A small flock of 10 to 15 chickens can easily consume 150-pound bag of commercial feed every 2 to 3 weeks, and when each bag costs between $20 and $35, that adds up to $400 to $600 every single year just to maintain the status quo, just to stay in the game. That is money spent on something your land could already be producing for you, if you allowed it to work the way natural systems have always worked. The truth is that chickens were never meant to survive on processed pellets poured from a bag. They evolved to follow life, to scratch through decay, to hunt insects, to convert waste into eggs and meat. When we remove that cycle, we replace it with purchases. When we restore it, we replace purchases with production. There is a simple system that brings that cycle back, one that turns scraps, manure, and everyday organic waste into a steady stream of high protein feed without ongoing cost, without complicated equipment, and without constant attention, and this system is built around the black soldier fly larvae, one of the most efficient biological converters on Earth. This is not a trick or a shortcut. It is a small engine you build once and then allow to run. Before understanding how to build it, it is important to understand why it works, because this is where most people get it wrong. They think they are raising insects. They are not. They are managing a natural recycling process that already wants to happen. Black soldier flies are not pests. They do not spread disease. They do not invade homes, and the adult flies do not even eat. Their only purpose is to reproduce and place their offspring near decomposing material, so the larvae can consume it. Those larvae can eat twice their body weight each day, converting waste into dense protein and beneficial fats far faster than compost alone. In controlled conditions, 1 square foot of active larvae can process several pounds of organic material daily. That means your kitchen scraps, spoiled produce, garden trimmings, and even animal manure stop being a disposal problem and start becoming feed input. Here is the part that changes everything. When the larvae reach maturity, they instinctively crawl away from their food source to find a dry place to transform into adults, and by designing a container that takes advantage of that behavior, you allow them to harvest themselves. No digging, no sorting, no handling rot. They do the work, and you collect the result. The system begins with a simple container, often just a 20-gallon plastic tote with a tight lid, something available at any hardware store for less than $20. Near the upper edge of the tote, small half-inch holes are drilled every few inches. Inside, a ramp made from scrap wood or plastic leads upward toward those holes at an angle of about 40 degrees. Beneath the holes sits a bucket. That is the entire harvesting mechanism. Organic material is placed in the bottom of the container, creating a moist, active environment that signals wild black soldier flies to lay eggs nearby. Corrugated cardboard suspended just above the waist gives them a safe place to deposit those eggs, and within 4 days, tiny larvae drop into the food and begin feeding. You are not buying anything to sustain this colony. You are attracting what already exists in the environment. Almost nobody talks about this, but the smell that people fear is not the smell of decay when the system is working properly. The larvae consume material so quickly that odor is actually reduced compared to open compost. Within 2 to 3 weeks, the larvae grow plump and dark, signaling they are ready to migrate. They climb the ramp, exit through the holes, and fall directly into the collection bucket. Every morning, you have fresh feed waiting. A well-established tote can produce a quarter to half a pound of larvae per day, enough to significantly supplement the diet of a small flock and reduce purchased feed by 30 to 50%. Sometimes more. This is not theoretical. Consider a backyard keeper who started with 12 chickens and was spending about $500 a year on feed. After installing a single larvae system and feeding kitchen waste, weeds, and manure into it, she cut purchased feed nearly in half within 2 months. Her birds became more active, egg yolks darkened, and she described the change not as saving money but as gaining control. The system behaved like a machine that ran quietly in the background. Once established, maintenance becomes minimal. Waste goes in, protein comes out, that is the rhythm. During warmer months, production accelerates because insect activity increases, often generating more larvae than chickens can eat immediately. This surplus can be dried at low temperature or frozen for storage, creating a reserve that carries the flock through cooler seasons when insect growth slows. In colder climates, insulating the container or moving it into a shed extends activity, but even when production pauses, the stored harvest maintains continuity. This makes the system reliable across seasons rather than dependent on constant output. Scaling is simple. One container supports a small flock. 2 or 3 containers can offset nearly all feed needs for a homestead scale operation. Each additional unit costs very little because it uses the same waste stream you already produce. There is no need to expand land or grow specialized crops. The inputs are things you once threw away. Over time, the relationship between your animals and your land begins to shift. Waste disappears, demonstrated consumed disappears. Chickens receive fresh, natural protein. Compost improves faster because partially processed residue becomes soil amendment. The entire loop tightens. What once required weekly purchases now operates through daily biological work. And this is the deeper value many people miss. The real benefit is not just saving hundreds of dollars per year, though that matters. It is removing a point of vulnerability. Every bag of feed you do not need to buy is one less moment where your system depends on trucking, pricing, manufacturing, or availability beyond your control. Instead, your system is fed by sunlight, leftovers, and time. The larvae become a bridge between waste and nourishment, connecting parts of your homestead that once functioned separately. Chickens are no longer passive consumers. They are partners in a cycle that sustains itself. Once you see this, it becomes difficult to return to the old way of doing things, because the old way asks you to keep paying for something your environment can already provide. This system is quiet, small, and almost invisible, yet it represents a different approach to keeping animals, one where productivity comes from design rather than purchase. You build it once. You feed it what you already have. It continues working whether you are watching or not. That is the shift from dependency to stewardship, from reacting to costs to directing resources. In the end, it is not really about insects or containers or even chickens. It is about deciding whether your food systems will always rely on inputs you cannot control, or whether they can be structured to generate their own momentum. One path keeps you in the cycle of buying and waiting. The other builds something that produces, adapts, and endures. The choice is not dramatic, but it is powerful, and it begins with a simple decision to let natural processes work for you instead of paying to replace them.